The Atari 5200 is an incredible classic console that many people overlooked, either played the Atari 8-bit counterparts or just avoided it altogether. The controller initially that came out was broken, imperfect, and many people disliked it. However, there are many options to play Atari 5200 games now. You can emulate it. You can play it in so many different ways. There's alternative controllers on the market now. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 games to replay and revisit on this classic console. You may have overlooked these. You may know about them. You may be revisiting an old friend. I have enjoyed playing Atari lately. I'm a big fan of the Atari 5200. So here's 5 games. Sit back, relax. Here we go. The more I play this classic shooter, the more I enjoy it and appreciate it and keep coming back to it. This is Vanguard, and this is different than the Atari 2600 counterpart. You're going to either love or hate the controls. There is different opinions about it. You can't move diagonally, but this has excellent pokey sound, an advantage over the 2600 version. The gameplay probably is a little bit better on the Atari 2600 version, but this game is cheap and often overlooked. I do believe it's a classic on the Atari 5200. I enjoy this one. I'm not the greatest at playing this. I am capturing footage on an actual Atari 5200 using real carts, and you know what, you play it the way you want, and you might have different alternative ways of getting around that original controller. I'm actually playing with the original controller and doing okay, but know that many people dislike playing it that way. But I enjoy Vanguard, multiple different zones. I like the graphics, and even though the sprites are single colored, I think this is not a bad looking game. But I think if you give this one a try, you are going to appreciate it. Big shout out to Mark from Classic Game Room HD. Kixx is like no other puzzle game I've ever played. It's fantastic on the Atari 5200, and you're essentially trying to trap Kixx with its patrolmen, which are titled Sparks, I do believe, in the manual. And you're trying to capture a percentage of the territory, and you have fast and slow draw button maneuvers in this game. And you might be familiar with this and maybe not, but like, it's fantastic, and I just wanted to continue to play this game and not continue this video, as I think it is a timeless classic that is overlooked for the Atari 5200. It is on the Atari 8-bit counterpart as well as several other versions, including an amazing Sega Genesis version. But if you want to go back and play a good port of the arcade, here it is, and I enjoy it. And there's a lot of different strategies that you can do with this game. I'm a big puzzle fan, and yeah, so much that I even created my own game, which is coming to the Atari 5200 hopefully soon, Block'em Sock'em. And so if you are not familiar with this timeless classic, this is fantastic. You can't have Kixx touch your line. There's also an additional enemy called Fuse, and it will travel along the line that you draw and will eventually take you out. A great game, overlooked, and fairly affordable. Check it out. Pengo was an overlooked arcade classic, and there was some home versions of it, mostly for the Atari 8-bit and Atari 5200 versions. There's slight subtle differences between the two. There was even an Atari 2600 version, and I appreciate this Atari 5200 version. And for many people, I've talked to many, they grew up the same era as me, and it was one of those that they weren't familiar with the arcade classic, so they didn't pick it up. Well, the nice thing is today there's so many different versions and ways of playing these 5200 games, and so I'm actually using original controller and playing this on an Atari 5200. It's been modified by Ivory Tower Collections, S-Video modded, by the way, capturing it through a RetroTink 4X. But you play it the way that you want, and maybe you're just with a standard controller, old school 5200 CRT. Hey, you're going to enjoy this one. I like it. It's a slower moving puzzle game in which you're trying to clear blocks and using blocks to squish enemies. To me, the gameplay is familiar to another timeless classic, Dig Dug, and I think if you enjoy that game, you're going to really appreciate this arcade classic that has been faithfully ported to the Atari 5200. Well worth it. Next up is Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator. I don't think this game gets enough acknowledgement for being excellent, and although this version of the game is not my all-time favorite, I did a video actually showing all the different versions of this game. I'm enjoying this and going back and revisiting this version of the game and really liking it. And you know what? The Atari 5200 library was limited, and I think this is a game, an example of a game that gets overlooked. It's not too expensive and fantastic graphics. It does include the additional asteroid level, and you're trying to hunt and track down Nomad. This is a fantastic game, and if you're a Star Trek fan and you haven't played this, this is great, especially old school Star Trek fans. I really enjoyed going back and playing this on original 5200, sticking the cartridge in and appreciating this game. It has good graphics, and I think this is just an example of a game that was overlooked. I think Star Trek takes a backseat to Star Wars games, and you know what? There wasn't as many games back in the day for Star Trek as I think Star Wars is more known about, and its iconic games. But you know what? Star Trek is a pretty good example of an action game. Well done. Thumbs up for me. I've been collecting and playing games a long time, and even I overlook classics. Now, I didn't grow up with Atari 5200, and Zone Ranger, while published by Activision, came out late in the life cycle of the 5200 and is a little on the expensive side to pick up the physical release. Well, good news is you can emulate this, but this is fantastic. This is a intense space shooter. It has some subtle nods to games like Bosconian and a little bit of Asteroids, but a lot more complex. There's multiple different aspects to this game. You're trying to destroy different satellites to progress to the next level, and I think 16 satellites per stage. There's warps. You can travel to different parts of the level, and so you track down these satellites by following the laser fire. It took me a while to notice that the laser fire that you see to track them down doesn't hurt you, but there's many other enemies that can. There's power-ups that you can pick up. It's just fantastic, and it works well with the original 5200 controller. Now, you're going to have your opinions of that original controller. You know, to me, I have a refurbished one that I keep around for playing games such as this, and it's fantastic. I really enjoy this one, and this is one I didn't know a lot about, and it's just well done. It's considered and reviewed by many to be well above average. It's not perfect, and to me, this is a good example of a classic game on the Atari 5200 that gets overlooked by other games more known about. And so, fantastic game. Highly recommend going back and revisiting this, and the 5200 version is well done. I just recommend a either refurbished controller or an alternative controller, or maybe you want to emulate this one, but it's well worth revisiting. So, in the comments, what do you think? What are ones that you recommend? The games that I recommended aren't the ones that are most common. Some are rare, but you can emulate these. These are often overlooked titles on this library of Atari 5200 games, and there are many that are more well known. Anyways, thank you so much for viewing this video. If you like what you see, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you take care.